Hello, friends. This is Scott Monty. Stand by for commentary.
Welcome to the Full Monty, where you'll be exposed to commentary and analysis from the week's digital news. You give us 15 minutes, and we'll save you hours. And now, here's your host, Scott Monty.
Hi, and welcome to the Full Monty, an audio companion to the newsletter of the same name. Each week, I pick a couple of the more pressing issues and inject some insight, opinion, and wit into this 15-minute show that's sure to give you a better sense of what's affecting the industry. Maybe you'll agree with me, maybe you won't, but I hope it makes you think. This week, a look at boycotts from an unusual angle. When a media company goes on the attack, is this a unique event, or are we in for more? Boycott this. So much about the political and media cycle in 2016 has been unusual, uncommon, or unprecedented. If anyone thought this pattern would end once the election was over, the past week has offered proof that we are indeed in a new world. We've been calling it a post-factual world, but things have gotten so surreal that might not capture it adequately any longer. The politically themed site Breitbart.com has not just covered the news over the past year, it has often been the news. President-elect Trump tapped the site's management and staff for much of his campaign staff and inner circle, and from all appearances, he gets much of his information or perspective based on how Breitbart covers current events. It's not a political statement to suggest that Breitbart, for better or worse, is right now perhaps one of the most influential information sites online. This has been a source of satisfaction to some. To others, it's a source of considerable angst. Breitbart is unabashedly far-right conservative, even by its own admission, and has been the primary home for the alt-right community. Others see the site as a harbor for various forms of extremism. Certainly, in the aftermath of the election, Breitbart's editorial outlook and its spin on current events came under greater scrutiny than previously, leading to a brighter spotlight on Breitbart from the rest of the media and from advertisers. Since the election, many of those advertisers have decided to stop advertising on Breitbart, particularly as they determine Breitbart's content and editorial outlook does not fit their corporate values. Some of the big-name companies pulling ads include Warby Parker, Allstate, Nest, the Vanguard Group, and Earthlink. And the activist Twitter account Sleeping Giants appeared, publicly calling out all brands that were running advertising on the site. But the problem was that some brands had no idea their ads were appearing on Breitbart at all. Many of those ad placements are retargeting ads that follow you around the internet, thanks to advertising technology. If you visited a site, it or an associated ad will appear on a site like Breitbart. Google's ad network is all over the Breitbart site, which means any business that does retargeting or audience targeting through Google could show up. And that's quite a few. At this point, it would seem that the only way to stem the flow of advertisers appearing on Breitbart would be for the ad networks themselves to decry the site as out of alignment with their values. But the biggest name involved in all of this is Kellogg's, that good old all-American brand that's synonymous with breakfast. And Breitbart has chosen to respond in an unprecedented way, one that should be of deep concern to marketers and to all Americans, regardless of your political outlook. When Breitbart began drawing more attention, particularly as its former editor became a senior strategist for Donald Trump, Kellogg's decided to pull its advertising from the site, stating, quote, We regularly work with our media buying partners to ensure our ads do not appear on sites that aren't aligned with our values as a company." End quote. Breitbart, a media outlet, remember, responded to the retreat by encouraging its readers to boycott Kellogg's products, positioning the company's decision as a declaration of, quote-unquote, war against conservatism and, quote-unquote, un-American. Breitbart News editor-in-chief Alexander Marlowe called Kellogg's decision, quote, an act of discrimination and intense prejudice, unquote, and indicated that Kellogg's, quote, declared hate for Breitbart's 45 million monthly visitors, end quote. The company started the hashtag Dump Kellogg's. It plastered its website with anti-Kellogg articles and even resorted to a pop-up display exhorting users to, quote, join the movement against anti-conservative bigotry, end quote. And that pop-up included logos of Kellogg's many brands. Now, setting aside the irony of Breitbart, a site predicated on the intolerance of half of the political ideology of this country, the irony of Breitbart rejecting the idea of intolerance against their one-sided news screeds, there's more to be concerned with here, which we'll cover in the second half of the show.
Get your trivia skills ready for the naked truth.
This week's Naked Truth trivia question: without Googling or singing through the whole song in your head, what did the true love bring on the 8th day of Christmas? Answer later in the show. And now, page 2. Politically motivated boycotts of big-name brands are nothing new. In the past few years, some that come to mind are Starbucks, Disney, and Target, which have been the target of boycotts from the right. And of course, there's Domino's, Chick-fil-A, and Hobby Lobby, which have found themselves in the sights of the left. Grassroots-led political boycotts are not new in American business. And in the very polarized America of 2016 and beyond, it probably stands to reason that there will be more of them, more than ever, in the next few years. But the Breitbart call to boycott Kellogg's, this is different, and it should bother you, even if you're politically conservative by nature. This is the first time, at least to this commentator's knowledge, that a media outlet has mounted a campaign to boycott an advertiser. And while the people in the United States still have First Amendment rights to patronize or boycott any brand they wish, when an outlet that purports itself to be a media site, especially one with political influence like Breitbart appears to wield, such a public call for boycott against advertisers is much more insidious. It's unethical. It's quite possibly illegal. And it's most certainly dangerous. From a perspective of journalistic ethics, Breitbart's actions violate standard journalistic practices. Other media outlets have decided editorial outlooks, but none have ever tried to impose those outlooks on advertisers or outside businesses before. Breitbart's call for a boycott is clearly intended to send a message that brands had better align or support its political perspective or face economic consequences. Purely and simply, it's an attempt by a political website to inflict its political outlook on brands and companies and to generate consequences for those companies that decline to support or advertise on any outlet they choose. Breitbart's action is intended to send a message that any company not sharing its worldview may be in for a world of hurt. And as they stated to the Associated Press, they said Kellogg's was making such a move, quote-unquote, to its own detriment. Now, you've seen movies about organized crime. There's a word for that kind of talk and behavior. It's called extortion. If you want to look up extortion in the dictionary, it's quite simply the crime of obtaining money or some other thing of value by the abuse of one's office or authority.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
But beyond being unethical and illegal, it creates a precedent about which other brands need to be vigilant. As Rob Clark said on Twitter, "Who's going to ever trust their ad dollars to a company willing to turn its audience against you?" Aside from the more salacious claims of extortion, Breitbart's actions could violate laws barring unfair business practices, because it's calling for a massive group boycott of an advertiser to further its competitive position. Ted Boutros, a First Amendment lawyer at Gibson, Dunn & Crutcher in Los Angeles, said, quote, "It's clearly intended to deter other advertisers from withdrawing their business and to ensure costs and prices don't go down for Breitbart. It's a serious issue to boycott in the commercial sphere." End quote. We'll see what the future holds as far as lawsuits in Breitbart, particularly as the state of California has some fairly broad anti-competition laws. Even absent any legal action, the last laugh may be on Breitbart, though. You see, their tantrum has led to a backlash against the backlash, and now there's an equally strong movement online to buy Kellogg's products in support of the company's decision. The hashtag #BuyKellogg's has risen, and you can see photos of Kellogg's purchases all over Facebook. In fact, my own family bought dozens of boxes of Kellogg's cereals to donate to local food pantries. Maybe you can think of a creative way to support the good guys, too. When media boycott a brand, we suddenly know where we stand. The effects are subliminal, and the actions are criminal when Breitbart extends a black hand. We asked you what the true love gave on the 8th day of Christmas. 8 maids a-milking. Let's hope the National Dairy Council backs that effort and supports our support of Kellogg's. If you have an editorial you would like us to read on the show, please get in touch with us at fullmontyshow@scottmonty.com. And if you've enjoyed what you're listening to, please consider becoming a patron and show your support at patreon.com/scottmonty or clicking on that orange button right on the Full Monty website. And if you would be so kind this holiday season, please take a look at us on iTunes and leave us a rating or review there. I'd really appreciate it. Be sure to check out other major stories from the December 5th edition of the newsletter. Amazon is cracking down on fake reviews in a number of ways. First, by deleting incentivized reviews, and secondly, by allowing no more than 5 reviews per user per week, unless they've made verified purchases. According to data published in November, about half of U.S. advertising and marketing executives identified artificial intelligence, virtual and augmented realities, and the Internet of Things and conversational marketing as critical emerging technology for marketing. And with all of its focus on technological advances on the most minute area of our lives, some think that the bigger picture is being missed because Silicon Valley has an empathy problem. Well, that's all for this week. With any luck, your brain is a bit bigger now. Thank you for making me a part of your week and for being exposed to the Full Monty. Until next time, I'm Scott Monty, and I'll see you on the Internet.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe to the Full Monty newsletter and this program at fullmontyshow.com.
To paraphrase National Lampoon, support this podcast or we'll shoot this dog.